Do you wake up in the morning to the strident noise emanating from your alarm clock with the sinking feeling behind your breastbone that translates to another day at work? As you get dressed, have breakfast, wait in lines for transportation, or creep along in traffic, staring at the other glum faces surrounding you in their individual tin packaging, do you question how you came to this point in your life and daydream about how it could be different? How many people do you know that demonstrate this same behavior and second guess their own career choices? How many go to work every day dreading the hours they will spend at their jobs and only looking forward to their weekend or time off? The film Office Space provides equipment for living for people who are disgruntled or feel malaise about their career choices, as it is frequently relatable and suggests a strategy from the storyline of how one man changed his life. In reviewing previous studies of how movies have become mechanisms as equipment for living, the process of feeling and analyzing those feelings builds a tapestry of understanding that culminates in individual life impact. Young explores how reflective feeling defines the influence of movies in everyday life. He ties association of feeling to the cognitive process for a perceived function at an analytical level. Ott built on this concept by arguing that only those who emotionally recognize the emotions and are not repulsed or found to be at odds with the feelings will see life lessons and guidance in the movie. Lair took this recognition and repulsion a step further and explained that feelings alone will not necessarily teach the best life strategies, but that an amalgamation of the two into a third feeling of awareness is required for successful translation to preserve what value it offers as equipment for living and mitigate the ideological pitfalls of its implied audience. Zhang, Zhao, and Yang proposed that one can only truly see the world through a merging of cognition and feeling as is found through theatrical sensibility, as it equips us to see the artificial world around us for what it is and to effectively participate in its making and remaking, and that we are less inclined to either dismiss the spectacle as pure simulacra or take it at face value. Numerous symbols are used throughout the movie to set the stage of the quintessential office that resonates with those of us who grew up watching MTV in the 80s and then graduated to soul-sucking corporate jobs in the 90s. From the opening scenes of the three main characters, Peter Gibbons, Michael Bolton, and Samir Nakahananhar, you find all three in nondescript sedans inching through the same traffic jam, dressed in classic white-collar worker attire of slacks, a button-up shirt, and tie with no jacket. As the opening progresses, the office where all three work is a cubicle maze of identical walls, very little space, no sound privacy, and individual flair to represent identity. These symbols together create the framework of the material identification resonance of the worker bee in a corporate environment. In Juxtapose, management is represented through the front door parking space of Bill Lumberg, the dress of all management with either belt and suspenders or a suit jacket, and the images of the bosses roaming the maze instead of locked up in a cubicle with the rest of the workers. Audiences are even more tightly tied to the movie when presented with idealistic identification symbols to create a sense of shared attitudes, feelings, and values. The repeated utterings of, "Yeah, did you get that memo?" and "We need to talk about your TPS reports" resonated so strongly that one Portland, Oregon webmaster started a site, Bullshit Job, that doubled as both a tribute to the film and a page where workers could post all the insulting memos and emails their bosses sent out. Other symbols added to the resonance to include Michael's frustration with the paper jam on the printer, and the later scene where Peter, Michael, and Samir beat the printer into pieces. The discussion at the shared cubicle of Michael and Samir representing the water cooler effect of gossip to kill time and find stress relief from the corporate politics and constraints, and the repeated use of watches and clocks to show time ticking away at the soul-sucking job. Peter's discussion with the hypnotherapist encapsulates the dead-end feeling of every unhappy office worker when he tells him, "So I was sitting in my cubicle today and I realized, ever since I started working, every single day of my life has been worse than the day before it. So that means that every single day you see me, that's on one of the worst days of my life." The final category of symbols that build the resonance of white-collar audiences revolves around those that represent the institution or organization. The entire reason for the Bob's presence was because of downsizing, or a corporation's act of diminishing the number of employees with the intention of saving money, which in this case demonstrated the company's willingness to fire loyal, hard-working engineers with actual experience for a minor increase in their profit margin. This non-caring, idiosyncratic version vision of corporate is further underlined when Peter tells the Bobs that his average workday consists of coming home in 15 minutes late and just spacing out for an hour. He does that for about an hour after lunch too. In a given week, he only does about 15 minutes of real actual work. They then offer him a promotion to management because he's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him. Office space is an allusion to the middle-class torture of day-to-day life. It is the tightness in the shoulders from long days hunched at a keyboard. It is the ache behind the eyes from the constant flickering of fluorescent tubes and the mind-numbing nights in front of the television, killing time until bed, and the repeat the next day. This resonation of feeling is what makes Office Space an equipment for living strategy. It is why at release it barely covered its 1999 $10 million budget, but by 2003 it had become a cult classic with more than 2.5 million copies sold on video. It is because of the movie's ability to act as a stress release therapy that anecdotally it led to people quitting their jobs. In his final line of the film, Peter declares, "This isn't so bad, huh? Making bucks, getting exercise, working outside," punctuating the final point in the Equipment for Living strategy, the desire to make an honest and contented living. And as Entertainment Weekly wrote, and why the film is still considered a cult classic today, it is that the movie will continue to amuse as long as there are still corporate drones who seriously consider torching their workplace.